of course, the increase of the oil prices that are also affecting the food supply chains. With 75% of the world population that is expected to be living in urban centers in 2050, for sure, to improve the distribution of all of food in an inclusive and sustainable way by planning and developing the adequate network of infrastructures, market systems, we can call it also, that can ensure in the long run food security, sustainability and resilience and territorial cohesion is one of our priorities. In this sense, we think that sustainable and resilient food supply for both urban and rural areas are dependent upon constructive interactions between urban and rural economies, communities and territories. To do so, we think that we need to join forces and open new spaces of doing and creating policies and spaces. We for sure need to mainstream sustainable food policies in order to create successful food territorial environments. This webinar will be amid the first opportunities after the UNFSS to explore ways of doing in different ways, doing it hand in hand in this multi-stakeholder approach with a large scope of major actors in the field. It's a great pleasure for me today to introduce the speakers that will introduce this webinar. We have Remy Siech-Ping from UN Habitat, who will be sharing with us the challenge of rapid urbanization, rural transformation, and the importance of food market system and the integration of urban and rural planning. Following, we will have Richard McCarthy from the World Farmer Coalition, who will be talking about perspectives on Farmer Markets Association and the importance of urban-rural linkages for the resilience and sustainability of markets. And afterwards, we'll have John Taylor from FAO, who will be giving us a country perspective, so concrete field country perspective on the importance of providing capacity building and technical support and investing in both formal and informal markets. Afterwards, I will speak really briefly, but about the role of wholesale markets in the context of market systems. That includes, of course, a planning of adequate infrastructure to build a link between the volumes that are being shared and trade between rural producers and urban consumers. So thank you all. Remy, you have the floor.
I think Remy is not with us today. I believe I will be representing Remy. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anne Amin, and I'm with the Policy, Legislation and Governance section of UN Habitat. And on behalf of UN Habitat, I'm really pleased to welcome all of the speakers today, from markets and market associations, local and regional governments, and the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, to this technical consultation on building sustainable and resilient food systems by integrating market systems at the center of urban-rural linkages. The rural economies have transformed as a result of the challenges posed by rapid urbanization. The COVID-19 pandemic has presented further tremendous challenges to both urban and rural communities, and other ongoing crises such as the climate change are affecting food systems and supply chains all over the world. The Sustainable Development Goals and the New Urban Agenda both call for integrated urban, peri-urban and rural planning, and UN Habitat has facilitated the mainstreaming of a new narrative for urban-rural linkages that includes guiding principles, a framework for action, piloting of tools and partnerships to support integrated territorial development of urban and rural areas. As part of this mainstreaming, a 3-year project to strengthen urban-rural linkages in 4 African countries, Cameroon, Guinea, Niger States in Nigeria, and Zanzibar in Tanzania, has just concluded. And as part of the ongoing work in 11 countries in Africa and Latin America, taking into account also the impact of the pandemic, it has become clear to all of us that informal and formal market systems are key to urban and rural livelihoods. The integration of different types of markets, from street vendors to farmers markets to retail and wholesale markets, is an essential component of integrated urban and rural planning, policy, and development. This is because the flows of people, goods, services, information, and capital that defines urban-rural linkages intersect on a daily basis in the market systems of cities of all sizes, from villages to large metropolises. In the governance of food systems, the operational level of food market safety, management, and regulation is a large part of territorial governance to ensure their resilience, sustainability, and inclusiveness, especially for women, indigenous peoples, and smallholders who provide a large proportion of the jobs and food in many cities. UN Habitat is pleased to host 3 different platforms or networks of market actors: the World Union of Wholesale Markets, Market Cities, and World Farmers Market Association, that include trade associations, NGOs, and market managers covering a diversity of informal and formal markets. We're also happy to have 3 local and regional government associations, ECLAY, UCLG, and Regions for Sustainable Development, as partners to reflect on their engagement with market systems in their jurisdictions that bring together urban consumers and rural producers and food systems across to provide food for their populations, including the most vulnerable. Our partnership with the FAO includes an increasing collaboration to support planning and governance of food systems at both local and national levels. Today's technical consultation builds on many prior exchanges during the course of the pandemic, as well as upon the working groups on urban and territorial food systems and the outcomes of the UN Food System Summit last year. On behalf of the UN Habitat team and our partners, we really look forward to a productive session and taking some of the key messages from today to upcoming events, including the AfriCities Summit taking place in May in Kenya, the World Urban Forum in Poland, June this year, the High-Level Political Forum in New York later this year, and the Committee on Food Security in Rome. We look forward to continuing to partner in new and creative ways with all the different sectors that influence, manage, and depend on the resilience of food markets. Thank you, and I'd like to wish you all an interesting and fruitful session on behalf of Remy, who is traveling at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. And sorry, Anne, I didn't. I just got the information that you were replacing Remy. So
no problem. No problem.
Okay, but thank you so much for that. So now we're going to go to listen to Richard McCarthy. Richard, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Eugenia. And I'm so excited to begin to shed some light on the complex kaleidoscope that Anna described with the territorial governance of markets. And my name is Richard McCarthy. I am zooming in from rural New York, but I work internationally. I wear several hats, but most importantly with Slow Food as part of the Market Cities Initiative, and very excitedly and very proudly here as the provisional president for the new Farmers Market Coalition. What I want to briefly describe is how the extraordinary rise of civil society markets is something that I've been part of for many years, but I think we're beginning to notice there is a critical mass brewing. And to be clear, within the complex web of different types of markets, what the World Farmers Market Coalition is particularly excited to assemble is farmers markets that are managed. They don't just occur, they aren't accidental. The coalitions that emerge may be accidental, but they are managed places. They are incredibly agile and creative. We have seen this in the pandemic. We've seen it during other moments that require resiliency. And they're very quick. Operating beneath tents and umbrellas, they are able to adjust to changing environments. There is a growing consensus that success for farmers markets looks a little bit like a triple bottom line, and that success is found in how they serve farmers, on economic development, consumers, on food access, and communities in creating safe, welcoming, inclusive public places. I think the most extraordinary thing circa 2022 is that they are widespread. They are not just clustered in the global north. We are discovering they are emerging all over the planet, in part because there is a great craving for transparency and clarity, trust, and direct contact between farmer and consumer. So in this past year, we have developed a new Rome-based NGO, the World Farmers Market Coalition. We are just being established. We are now all over the planet with an extraordinary set of leaders who are ready to integrate their work with extraordinary work that is emerging in different agencies that are recognizing these local platforms for innovation. And to that end, we have been designated by FAO as an FAO Food Coalition, and our work is just getting ready to begin. My experience with markets is as a market practitioner in New Orleans, where in 2005, we were getting ready to host our 10th anniversary of establishing a market, and instead we were visited by a rather large natural disaster, Hurricane Katrina. 5 years later, the BP oil spill greatly affected the work of our commercial fishing families. These were extraordinary times. We had to think on our feet. We were able to reposition the markets as centers for micro-enterprise investment, micro-philanthropy, conditional cash transfers, public leadership development. They were extraordinary times, and anyone who's experienced these periods of great uncertainty and trauma know what happens during those intense periods. The one thing we did learn, though, is you cannot organize after the crisis. You need to build the coalitions beforehand. And that really begins with what I think of as the 3 C's. You have to chart your markets, mapping what markets are there, not just the farmers markets, but the wholesale markets, the informal markets, the street markets. Categorize them so you understand the interplay between them. And only then can you begin to coordinate how these markets work as one market ecosystem. And the flow of information may be national, it may be municipal and territorial, but the recognition that they exist is one of the first steps to begin to figure out how to utilize them. And I mentioned this role of charting, categorizing, and coordinating, because this is something that we see in some extraordinary work underway in Bangladesh. And I think our next speaker, John Taylor, who is the technical advisor for FAO Bangladesh and based in Dhaka with the Dhaka Food Project, can take these ideas to the ground where you can see in a mega city what this kind of complex webbing of markets may look like. And with that, I will try and multitask by stopping to share my screen. Excited to introduce you to John Taylor. And I mentioned some things that I'll put in the chat with links and so forth. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. John, you have the floor.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Eugenia, and thank you, UN Habitat, for this opportunity. So I'm going to be speaking about the Dhaka food system and some of our work in partnership with the national government, local government division, and the 4 city corporations of Dhaka. And I will just give a presentation in 3 parts that will take you through some of the challenges, also linkages between formal, informal markets and urban poverty, and some of the things that we're able to do to help support a more resilient food system. So as many of you may know, Dhaka is a very large city, a mega city, a South Asian city on a deltaic plain. Its population is estimated up to 25 million, and that is taking into account several large city corporations. And I think what is notable about the city is its growth has been very rapid, from 3 million not too long ago. And the infrastructure that services the food supply of this city has not really kept pace with this rapid growth. I mean, here you see the markets, but their distribution is certainly, many of the public markets were built over 30 years ago. However, the city, the markets are, fresh markets are where the 95%, so the overwhelming majority of people source their food from. It's also where many people have their livelihoods, and it's a very important source of food for the urban poor. And we also have to consider that as the city grows, there is, continuing need, transformation of agricultural land into housing and industry, and also new slums of newcomers, and that is changing this periphery. Something to note about the governance, if you consider the fact that within the Dhaka North City Corporation, there is no department that is responsible for markets. It's distributed across many different departments, and you do have national agencies, but they are not very familiar working in cities. So there's very little coordination, and there's this institutional fragmentation. So as a result, a lot happens at the very local level in wards, and it requires ward councillors, of who you saw in the last picture, who convene and bring people together and make things happen. There's also a great variety of different kinds of markets. And so you can here see a very simplified typology. You also have private, public, large, small, and wholesale retail markets. So I'd like to draw a linkage now between what we think of as a formal market system, but then the urban poor, who largely depend on an informal market system. But the story doesn't stop there, because the way, if we look at it from a food system perspective, we look at the ways in which the poor are able to access their food in terms of food security and nutrition security, it really, you have to think about where they live as well. And the services are not able to provide, let's say, hygienic conditions. You also have very cramped spaces, no electricity, nowhere to store food, very difficult to cook food. So the urban poor are eating really starchy food. They're eating, cooking once a day. And I think as a result of this, the nutrition is very problematic, and certainly during the pandemic, particularly women and children were not eating enough. Also, the poor rely heavily on vendors for their food, and they have to transport food from markets, and often at the end of the day, when food is not very fresh, it collects dust, and so it's not very, it doesn't have very good nutritional content. And something else that is often overlooked is the fact that due to food loss and food waste, the availability of food is compromised, and this affects the price of food and the access to food. So what we see is this confounding situation in which there are lots of markets. There are over 400 markets in this city, and yet despite the availability of food being abundant, the accessibility of food, especially for the urban poor, is not great. Now, what can be done? And there's just a few things that we are working on, and we're helping the city corporations and stakeholders do as part of a food system approach. We are, well, first of all, this is mapping and getting a sense of what is out there. Where are the markets, and what are the conditions they're in? Prior to this work, there was really no register or documentation mapping of markets. And here, overlaying different kinds of maps, we see the relationship between the location of markets, population densities. There are obviously many areas of the city that are underserved. And then markets are of all kind of types of services. Some have toilets, some don't have very, waste management, etc. So, but it's an important information resource. Something else that we're working on is bringing together stakeholders through these multi-stakeholder urban food councils, so that different food associations, market vendors, committees, the public and other departments of government are able to discuss, prioritize issues, and resolve problems, promoting policies, etc. Food safety campaigns, very important in South Asia as a public issue on the agenda, but working together is much easier than the police or magistracy working alone. So bringing together the different departments to lend technical expertise to the idea of enforcing and raising awareness that helps with the prevention. And so these are just some ideas of a campaign. Building the capacity of market committees to be able to better serve customers. They are, as Richard mentioned, professionals, so they need some help to kind of improve their capacity. And also neighborhood level farmers markets, bringing food to those parts of the city that may not be very well served by markets, and also helping to reduce those food value chains and make them more stronger. And finally, promoting urban gardening by the poor. This is something that's become very popular during the pandemic, and we hope that it can continue to spread. We have been trying to put as much information out there as possible, and a lot of stakeholders are working, and thankfully working very well together. So we believe that there's a lot of change that is afoot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John, for this. I don't know if I can share my screen. I think that, oops. I don't know if I can, yeah, I'm trying. So I wanted to show you a video, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. 1 second. Well, yes. Perfect. Okay, so my name is Eugenia Carrara. For the ones that doesn't know me, or I wanted to start by briefly introducing our organization. So you have seen like briefly the video. So the WOM is the largest global network of wholesale markets and fresh food actors also of the world. We have around 220 wholesale markets that are members of WOM, from Shanghai wholesale market to Sao Paulo, Spanish one, Mercabarna or Mercamadrid, Mexico, South Africa, and also India, that I can see that now we have some representatives from India. We count also with our members fresh food street markets, as we call it, and also another actors or experts gravitating around the fresh food sector. Our members come from 43 countries and are located in 5 continents. So WOM mission, as you have seen in the video, is to lead the transition of the fresh food sector into sustainable and healthy and more resilience in the food system worldwide. Most of the time, wholesale markets, 90% in 90% of the cases, are public companies. They are owned by a mix of ministries, sometimes it's commerce, agriculture, or also like a local municipalities that they regulate within the private sector. So the infrastructure governing the wholesale markets is public. And then of course, within the wholesale markets, we have companies operating, wholesalers and logisticians, farmers and other kind of actors that are coming and they are trading fresh food products in the market. So a lot of them are of these wholesale markets are, by instance, inscribed in national laws as for national interest infrastructures in charge of ensuring food security. Today, wholesale markets sell about 50% of the fresh food that is produced worldwide. Therefore, of course, our infrastructures are an essential component to link rural and urban areas. We are, let's say, the ones that are bringing the most what is produced in of the food that is produced in the rural areas to the urban areas where like the people are consuming it the most. What is reuniting us here beneath all the previous presentation and what they were saying? So for whom this arena where we are exchanging experience, good practices, and learnings on how we can better integrate market system at the center of urban-rural linkages after COVID crisis particular is really crucial if we want to succeed in the future, to have a better response, more adapted response in terms of the crisis. Most of the organizations that are today present, and my colleague said it before, are for the most of them close to the field. They have been analyzing what happened during COVID-19 and also like the lessons that can be taken. One of them is, of course, and John, Thomas, everyone was speaking about this, that is crucial to be together and to join efforts to strengthen and integrate markets across the urban-rural continuum. So Richard was saying it right now, this needs to be done before the crisis. When the crisis is much more difficult to articulate together an answer. In WUN, we have seen it in really concrete ways. Of course, we have members in different regions. Some regions are a little bit more integrated than others. For instance, in Latin America, where like the ties between different wholesale markets is really strong. They have like WhatsApp groups with different governments officials and also wholesale markets, and this gave them like a lot of rapidity. Let's say they were like they had like much more rapid answers in terms of like regulation, good practices in wholesale markets to prevent also like the dissemination of COVID. Because as you know, at the beginning of COVID, one of the main challenges was to keep the markets open. Markets are places where a lot of people are coming all the time and trading. So of course, the working situation, workers were afraid of contracting COVID. So good practice, to establish good practice in terms of social distancing and cleaning the infrastructure was like a really key subject in order to ensure that the markets will keep on operating and delivering food for citizens in every city where they're operating. So studies from FAO and GAIN and observation also from our members have shown that cities that counted with developed territorial market systems, wholesale markets, and all the ecosystems that goes with them, because of course we supply fresh food markets, restaurants, canteens, hospitals. In cities where like these markets were more strong, citizens has more access to fresh produce, vegetables and fruits during COVID crisis, and also show less price volatility and less food chain disruptions. In this crisis world in which we are living, we require more and more coordination, as I was saying before, and also like to have this kind of multi-stakeholder approach in order to succeed developing quick answers. In this context, this space can create a really rich platform in which we can exchange together about how can we reinforce in a really practical way market food systems, and by strengthening also rural and urban linkages. This is why I hope that this webinar will be a fruitful first-time experience to exchange ideas, and I hope that it could be developed into a long-term collaboration platform to support all the actors in the ecosystem and to find together innovative ways to develop successful strategies and policies and to ensure more resilience in the food systems. Thank you. Thomas, I don't know if you want to take the lead now to go to the second part of the webinar.
I think I can just do it, Eugenia.
Okay, great.
So if you can unshare your screen, that would be great. So thank you, everyone. My name is Christy Daniel, and I'm the director of the Livable Cities program for Healthbridge, which is an international charity. And our Livable Cities program is focused on public spaces, which includes markets. But we're also a partner in the Market Cities program. The Market Cities program advances a new vision for public market systems, one that creates infrastructure, policies, and investments in public markets at the citywide, regional, or national level. And it's my pleasure to moderate today's panel with market actors. I think you're still sharing your screen, Eugenia. It could be that Zhao can take over. So we'll move on to our first presentation. So Zhao Tiago Carapau, I'm so sorry if I didn't say that right, is the Director General of the Lisbon Wholesale Markets, and he's going to present on the importance of wholesale markets for farmers in Portugal. So Zhao, you have the floor. There we go.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is João Tiago Carapau. You have said very well my name. I'm the general manager of CIMAB Group, a Portuguese public group that manages the wholesale markets in Portugal. And of course, I will share with you our experience here in Portugal. You are seeing the presentation, okay? And I would like to quickly to show you that in Portugal, we have a public company that manages 4 main wholesale markets, and we have conceived these 4 main wholesale markets, and we have construct, and now we are managing the wholesale markets. At the same time, we work also in training in the operators, and we are sharing with them all our experience for example, in working with VUM to share the best practices all over the world and to bring to our operators, also farmers, a little bit of this experience. As I said, we have 4 wholesale markets in Portugal. As you know, Portugal is a small country in Europe. We have 700 kilometers for 300 kilometers. And these 4 main wholesale markets have different dimensions. We have the smallest one is in Braga, in the north of Portugal, is a market, a wholesale market with almost 60 operators, with 30 permanent producers that sell in our wholesale market. And in Lisbon, we have one of the major wholesale markets in Europe, Marle, which has more than 100 hectares of total area. Here, as you can see, we have more than 800 operators and 300 farmers that normally sell their products here in our facilities in one specific pavilion. We have another 2 markets in the south of Portugal, and our main numbers, I would like to underline two aspects. One is that we have almost 1,500 operators, and we include in these 500 farmers. So we are supporting directly the local production in the influence area of our 4 main wholesale markets. And in this, in the total of our operators, we have 6,000 workers that all day are working in our 4 wholesale markets. At the same time, we have a very important linkage to the municipalities, and we work with the local retail municipal markets. We are working for the last 20 years to rehabilitate and to modernizing these kind of local markets. And as you can see, we are working in the north, for instance, in Figueira da Foz, is near the coast of Portugal, and we have made the project of the rehabilitation of this market. always with specific spaces to the local farmers. We have worked in Faro, in the south of Portugal, at the same way, and even in the Azores Island. As you know, it's the archipelago of Portugal in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and we have worked also to increase the local production inside these kind of markets. Finally, we have a three-dimension activity because we work also in promoting, for instance, the 5-a-day project that you know is international project for nutrition. We have the food banks inside of our wholesale markets, and we have also an academy to have programs in training the operators and the farmers. And we represent in Portugal, in partnership with VUM, the Love Your Local Market initiative. So I leave you here with some numbers of our production, agri-food production in Portugal, just to reinforce that we are increased very lot our fruits and vegetable production. And of course, there is in the wholesale markets export dimension very important to sustain this economic dimension. Finally, I would like to share with you that for us it's clear that the farmers are the core business of our wholesale markets because they have an essential role to our three strategic lines of development of our agri-food policy in Portugal: taste, value, true food, and empire of senses. Just to say that, for instance, in Marl, in our main wholesale market in Portugal, in Lisbon, in the capital, we have a specific pavilion where in each day our local farmers can sell their production. They are around, as I said, 300 producers, and we are working with them to increase and to increase in the marketing areas, in the hygiene conditions, in the promotion, in export opportunities. So it's a very important area in our main wholesale markets. Just to say that the COVID-19 pandemic crisis highlights the central role of our wholesale markets. As you can see, we have increased the retail clients in CIMAB wholesale markets in 30% in these 2 last years. So it's obvious here in Portugal and in Europe, as we are saying that the wholesale markets, the local markets are absolutely decisive to respond to a crisis like COVID situation. For the other hand, when we see the market's occupation in this period, we are reaching plus than 99% of our commercial spaces in Braga and Lisbon, for instance. And we, as Eugenia said, we worked 65 days a week, 25 hours a day to maintain always the wholesale markets open, precisely when the main supply chain failed here in Portugal in March and May of the 2020. To conclude my presentation, I would like to underline the 5 key questions that for us support the farmers' presence and production in our wholesale markets. First of all, we are a public company, and like a public company, we have a public mission to support the farmers, the Portuguese farmers in these wholesale markets. Secondly, the 4 wholesale markets, all of them have specific areas to our local producers. So we have the ideal conditions for their trading operations. Thirdly, we are always open, so we're allowing a strong commercial and logistic link between farmers, wholesalers, and retailers. Another very important question is that we are promoting the engagement with local associations. We have inside our wholesale markets, technical supports to the farmers' production, and even some startups in agri-food innovation that have begun with farmer production. And lastly but not least, with the consulting service to municipal councils in rehabilitation of their municipal retail markets, we reinforce also the link between the local production, the wholesale markets, and the retail, and even, of course, the consumers and the populations. So to conclude, I would like to share with you that we are now in 2022, we are launched the event of Love Your Local Market here in Portugal, and the claim that we have adopted is Love Your Local Production, because we believe strongly that the markets, the wholesale markets and the retail markets are the aim of the valorization and the promotion of the local productions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that great presentation. Next up, we have Naima Akhtar, who is a project officer from Work for a Better Bangladesh. Her presentation is pre-recorded because of time change problems. She's going to be sharing with you an example of a pilot farmers market in Dhaka that took place during the pandemic. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one too.
Hello everyone, I am Naima Akhtar, working as Project Manager in Work for a Better Bangladesh Trust. We are a policy advocacy organization, and our mission is to support policymakers to draft, pass, and enforce policies that will help in achieving a healthy population and environment, and to promote equality and social justice. Today, I will be sharing about our experience on piloting a farmers market in Dhaka with the support of the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. So why FAO thought of establishing a farmers market in Dhaka? In Dhaka, food safety is a great concern. The vegetables, fruits, fish, meat containing harmful chemicals already exhaust city people. They prefer to visit those markets that contain and sell fresh, safe, and nutritious food. Often these safe foods are expensive and not affordable by poor people. On the other hand, though Bangladesh is doing great in terms of achieving food security, farmers do not get enough profit due to the domination of middlemen in the market system. As farmers market create a direct relation between farmers and consumers, eliminates middlemen so that farmers can profit more and consumers can buy the fresh product in lesser price, FAO, with support of Dhaka North City Corporation, piloted a farmers market. And we, Work for a Better Bangladesh Trust, supported FAO to implement the project. I will try to give a slight idea about the neighborhood where the farmers market is established. This market is established in ward number 6 of Dhaka North City Corporation, and it is a ward with an area of about 3.02 square kilometers. An approximate population of the ward is 1 million, and about 0.1 million people live nearby the farmers market. And people here mostly live in slums and are from low and middle income group. To implement this pilot, we actually followed several steps. A number of meetings were conducted in this process. At the very beginning, a stakeholder meeting was organized with the officials of Department of Agriculture Extension, Agriculture Marketing, Fisheries, Livestock Services, etc. And this stakeholder meeting actually helped us to determine our location to select farmers from. Later, face-to-face meetings were conducted with the Agriculture Office to identify and engage farmers who produce safe crops. And with the help of Agriculture Office, we organized meeting with the farmers, and during these meetings, the farmers were given a clear idea about farmers market and its benefit towards farmers, consumers, and communities. At last, 10 farmers who produce safe crops and are certified by Department of Agriculture Extension expressed their interest to join the initiative. Along with farmers and various officials, it is also important to engage the local community. So community meeting was organized to share the idea with the community people and discuss the benefits the community people will get from farmers market. And it was also important to know the expectation of the community people from the initiative so that we can ensure it as much as possible. Otherwise, the initiative will fail to attract people. And to inform the community about establishing a farmers market in their area, we conducted various awareness campaigns such as distributing leaflets, displaying banners, etc. And in addition, mainstream media was also engaged to reach mass people. And one of the most important stakeholder of the farmers market initiative is the local ward councillor office. So we maintained continuous communication with them throughout the project. So what was our challenges? No initiative is possible to implement without facing any challenge. At the beginning, farmers were skeptical about participating in the initiative. They were not sure about their profit and how much the initiative will be successful. But after experiencing the positive feedback from the community people, they became confident. And another issue was raised by the community people regarding the high price of the product. Later, there was a meeting with the farmers and they said that due to their lack of knowledge about marketing, they could not set the price of the produce rightly and later reduced the price of the product. But rather than focusing on the challenges, it is more important to focus on the benefits. Each week, 10 farmers sell their produce in the farmers market who are able to make profit. On each market day, about 1,500 to 2,000 consumers are served. Maybe the numbers are not big, but success lies within creating the opportunity to access safe food for a low-income community. And there is the relation of trust among the community people and the farmers, because we have observed that community people can request credit opportunities from the farmers. And importantly, the site selected for establishing farmers market was previously used for dumping garbage. With this initiative, street as a public space has been reclaimed and a place has been changed to a beautiful market from waste dumping. Community people have expressed their happiness because they have got ridden from unhealthy and smelly garbage. Instead, they now have access to safe food and socialization opportunity. So what is the next step? WBB Trust, again with technical and financial support of FAO, are going to establish a total number of 16 farmers market in Greater Dhaka. And we believe with this initiative, we will be able to ensure access to the affordable and safe source of nutritious food to the local neighborhoods from nearby farmers and will have a positive impact upon public health. Thank you for your patience hearing.
Sharing screen. So that presentation was from Naima, and next up we're going to have a presentation from Dr. Furha Abwe. He's the Executive Director of Urban Planning for Community Change, and he's going to take us on a quick tour of Kilombero Market and share with us the results of the market mapping he did in 2018-2019. Dr. Abwe is actually on the call, and so he is able to take questions should you have any in the chat.
Hi, this is Furha Abwe, Executive Director of Urban Planning for Community Change. I'm coming to you from Kilombero Market. In 2018-2019, we conducted a study on the market. We found many things, but one of the most important was the inequitable spatial distribution of market. This was confirmed in our survey with the customers who told us they had to travel over 25 minutes by Daladala to reach a market. During COVID-19, this lack of spatial equity is even more problematic. We want and need people to stay close to home, but people also need access to food.
We have only just started working on this issue, but we believe the Genge provide an opportunity to fix this spatial inequality, especially in the short term. The Genge are small informal kiosks located in neighborhood, often by bus stops. They typically purchase their food from the market. Some of the things we are looking at include better supporting these informal vendors through training, broadening the product they sell, and better connecting them directly to local farmers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abwe. And in this last clip, we are going to share a small portion of an interview I conducted with Kamana Mandahar, who is the project officer for Resource Center for Primary Healthcare in Nepal. This interview was conducted just after the Nepal earthquake in April 2015. So the interview was conducted in June. And to give you a little bit of context for the video, Kamana is describing the immediate aftermath of the earthquake, which picks up with her talking about her family leaving her home and going to a public space. And in the clip, she explains the role of the informal food vendors and what they did at that time in the immediate aftermath. As Kamana is talking, we are also showing video clips of one of the markets in Kathmandu, and that video was taken in June 2015 on the same day that the interview was conducted. Now it is going to start and stop rather abruptly, and so for that we apologize, but it's not necessarily the best person in terms of. Oh, hello. Sorry. So now I've closed out the video, so I just have to bring it up again. So give me 1 minute.
Whole family were together, and in my family there are 9 members, so we were all together Saturday afternoon, and they just waited and hoped that this will be soon go away or something like that. And meanwhile we had food vendors visiting a lot of open spaces at that time, so they were serving fruits, some were serving hot beverages, fruits like watermelon and cucumber, and most of the families bought from them. And since we're quite hungry at the time, so the only source of nourishment were provided by those food vendors, mobile food vendors, and because we couldn't go back to our home, it was too risky, and then the price of the food was not that high too.
Right, so they didn't take advantage because people were.
No, they did not take any advantage. Rather, they were generous to let discount us even.
Yeah. So what struck me about this video was that in only 2 months, the market was, and it was a permanent market that was located between Tamil and one of the Durbar squares, the market was a thriving and functioning place. And so what all of the presentations in this session have illustrated is the natural nature of markets. So in Portugal, they demonstrated the role of the wholesale markets in connecting farmers, municipalities, and consumers, especially in a time of crisis such as the COVID-19 pandemic. And also the interesting ways in which wholesale markets can be integrated into communities. In Dhaka, they wanted people to be able to stay close to home and outside, so they pilot tested a farmer's market. In Arusha, they also wanted people to stay home, so they're working with the existing informal network to strengthen their capacity to distribute foods. And in Kathmandu, the example illustrated the benefits of the informal vendors and the ways a diverse public market system has the ability to repair and react quickly in times of stress and breakage. So now I'm going to pass the baton on to my colleague, Richard McCarthy, who will moderate the next session.
Thank you, Christy. Indeed, so much of our agricultural policies and food discussions occur at the national level, national ministry level. And what we are excited to move the discussion to, we have a marvelous group of discussants who can shed light on what does this mean? What do these issues mean? How does it resonate for you from your city experience at the subnational level, whether it's regional or municipal? And for this, we have Lawrence Dixon Kabla from the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. I know that you are the focal person for food systems there in Ghana. Dani Pafuago from the city of Johannesburg to respond to the specific examples in South Africa, and then Luis Felipe Villani Porquero in Sao Paulo. And I know that you are the sort of the point person on vegetable research and greenhouse cultivation, so seeing on both the supply and demand side. So I know we only have a few moments because, of course, there's so much to pack in here. If you have questions, certainly take a look at the chat. There's so much Q&A going on in the chat. By all means, ask questions and respond there. But in the meantime, we would love to hear first from Lawrence Dixon Kabla. If I can turn to you, the floor is yours. May need to unmute yourself.
Hi there. I don't think Lawrence has joined. He indicated that he would be shortly. Shall we move him to the third discussant? Otherwise, I can provide some anecdotes on his behalf.
Why don't we do that? We'll give him a chance to join. Donnie, are you there? Again, from the city of Johannesburg. This might be a very efficient discussant session.
Hello.
You're there? Yes, yes, we certainly can. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Tony Pakwa from the city of Johannesburg in South Africa. Just for me to also share our experience in terms of food system and markets in South Africa. So the city of Johannesburg is almost 5.6 million, which is dominated by areas. So agricultural land here in South Africa is very scarce, especially in the city of Johannesburg. And as part of our initiative, we're trying to be smart to apply what we call smart agriculture in terms of hydroponic cultures and many. So as a city, currently what we do is we actually trying to support small scale farmers in crop production and also in poultry and piggery and other crops. So currently,
Donnie, we have some problems listening to you. Could you please try to speak closer to the microphone?
Is it? Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Yeah.
Much better.
Oh, much better.
Thank you.
Right, I was just saying I don't know whether must I start from the beginning or must I continue because I've already said a lot. Hello.
I think you can continue. You can continue.
Okay, as I said, our intervention in the city is more on small scale farmers who are actually now involved in crop production. They produce vegetables. They produce also the poultry. They are in broiler chickens. They are in egg production. And our market structure is in this format. What we have is that we've got a formal market. We've got the biggest market in South Africa, in Africa, we call the Joburg market. That is the fresh produce market. It's almost 65,000 square meter. And that is the biggest market, which actually has got turnover of almost 7 billion per annum. So our farmers, we all link them to our small farmers. We link them to this market where they supply their produce to the agents, and the agents they sell them on their behalf. So we also have as a city what we call our own food bank. This food bank is where as a city we are taking some of the products and give them to the indigenous family, poor families, as a form of donation. And we've done a lot during the pandemic, COVID-19. Because we were almost feeding close to 16,000 families a week. And some of these products that we were feeding these families, they were from the small scale farmers that we were supporting SSC. So we've created this market for our farmers not to struggle in terms of the market once they produce their product. So we also supply our big retailers in South Africa, we call Pick n Pay, Shoprite, Spar, in the form of off-take sales agreements. And also trying to tap into the new markets of with the big giants like FedEx. FedEx is one of the canteen companies which is also supplying the banks like ABSA and the Standard Bank. So the other one that we have already established that we've got what we call hub and spokes in the facilities in South Africa, where we're trying to group these farmers in the form of cooperatives, and they go and use this facility for packing, for sorting, and also the deliveries to the various markets. We're trying to make sure that the supply, the market is one, is one component because they are supplying bit of products. So the other one is the issue of the organic market. We, as a city, in terms of the climate change, we're also embarked on making sure that we convert some of these conventional farmers into organic farmers to also contribute to the issue of climate change. We discourage them, some of them, to use fertilizers, which is synthetic fertilizers, for them to produce organic products. Then these farmers, after they produce, they also send this to the organic farmer markets like Woolworths and also brands in the food market. So in terms of informal markets, we do have a lot of informal markets for our farmers. We organize what we call Farmers Day on weekly basis, where they go and display their products and to the communities, and they get clients from that point. And also they also sell to some of the hawkers and hawkers who buy these products and sell from the street, and also sell to the household. And they also sell to baggy traders and also to household townships. So in terms of the poultry products, as a city, what we have done is that we actually established what we call mobile chicken abattoir, where some of these farmers, they go and slaughter these chickens to add value before they transport them to the various markets. And their main market is what we call Chisanyama in South Africa, where they fry and sell the fried meat. So these farmers, they are selling these chickens to those Chisanyamas and some of the butcheries in the townships. So the challenges that we have in South Africa during the pandemic and even now is a consistency of supply in the market by these small scale farmers, because they produce on small scale. You'll find that the demand is high and the product of the supply is low from them. That's why we need to really make sure that we capacitate them to be productive. The other one is we also lack some of these hub and spoke facilities in other regions, where they use this facility to pack, sort, and also deliver to the market. The other biggest challenge is the competition by the commercial farmers. You know, if we've got large volumes of products, you can always determine prices. So our farmers, some of our small scale farmers, they can't compete with the large farmers, because commercial farmers, in most of the cases, they lower their prices if they find that there is a competition in the market. So the other biggest challenge is also issue of increase in petrol price. This is the concern for our small scale farmers, because now they have to increase the price of their products because of increase in petrol price. And when they increase these products, they lose some of the clients because of the increased prices. But however, as time goes on, they have to absorb it and also make sure that they recover their money in terms of the profitability. So the priorities for the city now is to ensure that we increase productivity for these small scale farmers in the city. As I said, that we don't have much of the land. What we do is hydroponics. We're trying to be innovative so that we are able to supply our markets with the volumes that they need on a daily basis, and also to make sure that we increase the number of hub and spokes in the regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donnie, and thank you I see the wonderful link with hydroponics. It certainly ties us in with, we know, to be some of the expertise that Luis Pereiro, which you have in Sao Paulo. Luis, are you there?
Yes, Richard. Do I have a good do I have a good audio?
You do, loud and clear.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Philip Purcherio. It's Italian descendant, like Eugenia, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. I am a representative from Sao Paulo State's Agricultural Secretariat. I am a scientist of Agronomic Institute and a teacher in tropical and subtropical post-graduation course. My research line is related with food productions, mainly vegetables, and its production systems, greenhouses, aeroponic, hydroponic, as our colleague said, urban farming, and vertical indoor cultivation, okay? I also run Agronomic Institute Indoor Grow Laboratory, and the main event related to it in Sao Paulo State. The workshop of urban farming will take place in a few days, in May the 12th, okay? And as Thomas and the organized gentleman asked it, to bring an overview of Sao Paulo State challenges for markets and urban farming. Brazil is huge with a continental size. I'm located in São Paulo state, and we have the biggest population in Brazil. São Paulo city have more or less 12 million people, and Campinas city, where I'm located, 5 million people. With that big population, our biggest challenge is to produce more food with less resources, aiming economical and environmental sustainability. As Amy said in her speech, we are facing rapid urbanization, rural transformation, and changes in food and market systems. I selected 6 changes that are happening here in São Paulo to think about with you. That changes will carry us even more to food production models transformation and new urban farm models. First, population growth. At 2042, we will reach 9 billion people worldwide, and the main question is where to find food for everyone. Second, related to the first change, we will face transformation in food models. Plant-based food models are growing much because of its cost, sustainability, and energetic balance. Third, need of specific foods for specific diets directed to people of different ages, like children, older people, diseased people, and a lot more. 4, growth of urban population against rural population. In Brazil, at 2042, we will be more or less 90% of people living in cities. 5, logistics of food distribution. From food production going to post-harvest and distribution, we totalize about 30% of loss. As John Taylor said in speeches in Dakar, it's the same. We lose a lot. 6th, and the most important, climate change. In São Paulo state, last year we had sandstorms. It never happened before. Strong blizzards, rainfall concentration, and this is making food production harder and harder, with prices getting higher and higher. In that way, we have to protect our crops and reduce climate change influences. These topics, these 6 ones, direct us to think in transformation in producers and market models. And research, that's what I do in São Paulo state, looks after to provide support with technical information for it. Well, I think this is my contribution in the 3 minutes Thomas gave me. And to finish, I invite everyone to visit Brazil, to visit São Paulo state, to drink a coffee here in Agronomic Institute with me. And we are open to public and private partnerships to build sustainable and resilient food system, to exchange students and improve our food safeness. Thank you, and we are open to doubts and everything. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Philippe. And indeed, all winter long, I've been dreaming about the Brazilian markets, which are extraordinary with the biodiversity in place. The other markets I dream about all winter is the markets in Ghana. Do we have Lawrence Dixon Kabla from the Accra Metropolitan Assembly? Or are we going to fill in with a substitute poll representing Italy? Is that correct?
Hi, everyone. I have a screenshot of his screen giving him difficulty. So I'm going to cross my fingers that he'll arrive, because it is always more refreshing to hear from people who are faced with the challenges that we're exploring. But maybe just anecdotally, I can share from some of the work we've done with cities and with Cape Town, and then my colleague Solofina could share a reflection from some of the dialogues processes. But in short, we've, as you opened, Richard, we've been trying to work out how we move the narrative away from a focus on urban agriculture towards what the mandate of local government could be in improving food systems. And I think we've been inspired quite a lot from our colleagues at the African Center for Cities through an infrastructure and a planning lens around not necessarily creating a new entity that has to look after food, but embedding food into planning systems, into infrastructure and service delivery mandates. And so I think they're the focus on once food has arrived in the city, how are we distributing it? How are we then improving resilience and nutritional outcomes? And so one of the pieces of work we've done with the Cape Town Fresh Produce Market, through which about 40% of Cape Town's horticulture produce arrives or moves, has been looking at how we can reduce passing on the heavy costs associated with nutritional produce onto the buyers and then the consumers. And so some of the interventions presented there are to improve storage facilities in that market specifically, are to provide services, transport services to the buyers so that they're not picking up food every day, but can actually move a larger bulk of food at once, produce at once. And then, and I think from Johannesburg, we got a hint of this, developing hubs, which a number of our colleagues in Cape Town are working on, such as Kurt from the South African Urban Food and Farming Trust, to develop food hubs, which are sites of agri-processing, of cold storage, and then further retail. And the idea there is to reduce passing on the cost onto consumers to make it more accessible or affordable for getting nutritious food. But also coming back to our the manager of this market, it's about increasing the amount of food moving through the market entirely, which then improves the money that farmers can make. And so we can apply a business lens and say, if the fresh produce market is moving more food, it's making more money, so is everyone else. And so there's quite a simple arithmetic there, which is interesting. To hand to Solofina for a minute on Uganda and Kampala.
Thank you very much, Paul. And maybe my focus on Kampala is really more of a reflection on some of the key outcomes that we had while interacting with over 15 local governments during the dialogues leading up to the UN Food System Summit. And I think we've seen this also in Dakar. It has been noted in Cape Town as well as Johannesburg, is that the bulk of food that is moving through mostly the African cities is moved by small-scale actors. So these are traditionally not bankable. So that means that a food moving is actually food moving at either small quantities, or there's not enough infrastructure in place to allow for the movement of bulk food to reach the consumers. So, and I think one of the key reflections coming out of this is that we have to create systems that allow for the access of finance to small and medium-scale actors that are the key movers of food in African cities. So that means building onto platforms, for example, such as cooperatives that could work for the urban market, for the urban formal and informal traders that are small scale, but then also using accessible platforms such as mobile money, among others, that are easily accessible to small and medium enterprises, as well as informal traders, to allow for access to finance. So that was, those were some of the key outcomes with regard to the movement of food, that we need to empower small and medium scale actors in the African cities that are the majority movers of food to be able to access finance, to expand their businesses, and in so doing are able to allow for increase in movement of food to reach consumers. So that would be my contribution to that regard. Thank you.
Richard Lawrence has just joined. Do we have a few minutes?
I think we have a minute. we would love to hear from him.
Hello, greetings to everyone.
Welcome.
Sorry for being late to join you on the program. I had to attend to a very important issue that cropped up, but at least I've been able to join you. And I hear I have just a minute.
You do.
Well, the city of Accra was able to manage the COVID situation very well. with the education being given to the market women, especially, who were at the position to receive a lot of people when it comes to buying and selling at our major marketplaces. So education on wearing of face mask and washing of hands and all the necessary instructions that go with COVID-19 was done in a form of radio education, in a form of physical meetings with the market groups and educating them on the various lifestyles they should live to be able to reduce the spread of the disease. Accra the assembly has 4 major markets, Agbogbloshie, Makola, Kaneshi, and Mamprobi. And these are markets that receive food from the hinterlands. So we have a lot of foodstuff ranging from cereals, vegetables, and the fruits in all these markets. And among these 4 markets, the major one and the largest is the Agbogbloshie market. The Agbogbloshie market. So Accra has been able to manage the situation to the barest minimum. So as I speak to you, restrictions have been lifted or softened a little, far low compared to the initial ones that were given out when the disease was so rampant and accelerating in the city of Accra. As I speak to you, we still put on face mask. We carry out all the restrictions that go with COVID-19, but it is not as serious as before because the positive cases has reduced drastically. Yes.
And I think that is a perfect place to perhaps land, because Lawrence, what you described is something that market practitioners know, is that we have to operate in a very grand visionary level. And at the same time, it is the devil in the details, the masks, the hand washing, all of the intricate moving parts that make these marvelous, colorful, and complex institutions function. And I believe, Thomas, if I should pass the baton directly to Florence or to Eugenia, I know that we are very excited to hear from the FAO position, because from the national and international level, these complex players that often are like mooring a tugboat next to an ocean liner, a small farmer next to a large one, is very, very complicated from a regulatory and investment standpoint. So we're thrilled that I know this is where we will eventually land. Should I hand it over to you, Eugenia, or?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lawrence. Yes, so I don't know. So Florence is not going to speak at the end. So I can speak like really short about. So of course, wholesale markets, they operate, as we were saying before, in an ecosystem of actors. So we are most of the time cooperating with governments. Most of the time, as I was saying before, our board members are members of national or local governments. So of course, there are like clear legislations that are helping wholesale markets to operate in a better way, and also like street markets to be able like to operate, to have like activities, and to include also more like farmers or other kind of produce now is being fostered as like organic production or more local production. So all these things, we have a lot of examples. We can share them with you. I was just saying it in the chat box that maybe this could be also another webinar or another joint publication with maybe FIO and UN Habitat, because it's related at the same time with like city development and with legislation, better policy. policies and how to mainstream at different levels with different stakeholders, policies and frames, as law frames, for instance, that can facilitate better market systems.
Is Florence Tartamak there? Sorry for the echo. Do we have Florence Tartamak or Cecilia on the line? Sorry.
Yes, she is
Yes,
connected.
good morning. I am here. Hello, everyone. Is it my time for my intervention?
Yes, dear Florence.
Okay, hello, thank you very much. Sorry, but I arrived late, so I couldn't follow the discussion, but I would like to thank everyone for the presentation. So I have, can I share my screen? I am allowed to do so? Yeah, I think so. So let me know if you can see it.
Yes, Florence.
And is it okay? Because I still see it very small. Do you see it okay, or do you see it in two screens?
I think it's fine.
Oh, it's fine. Okay, so first I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to participate to this important event. And I would like also to thank all the participants for the interesting discussion, even if I was not able to follow it in full. So before mentioning some takeaway messages from today's discussion, I would like to take a few minutes to introduce the work that FAO has been doing for mapping and strengthening what we call territorial markets as a key strategy for ensuring the access to nutritious food and healthy diet for all, and for incentivizing the purchase and consumption of fresh, seasonal, and diverse foods. So despite their importance, data concerning territorial markets, data, for example, such the availability of food groups, food retailers, and consumer profiles, and their relevance for consumer diet are still very limited and are often not included in national data collection systems. As a result, territorial markets are often neglected in strategies aimed at improving nutrition, reducing poverty, and fostering local economies. For this reason, FAO launched a global initiative to map territorial markets and developed a methodology to collect data and information. This initiative stems from the CFS, the Committee on World Food Security, recommendations that took place in 2016 related to connecting small farmers to markets. And this recommendation highlights the importance of territorial markets for small-scale producers, food security, and local economies, and also recommend to get data and show evidence about their importance. The work on territorial markets also feeds into the FAO corporate urban food agenda, which is the overall framework for the FAO priority program on urban food systems. The program aims at supporting cities and local governments in mainstreaming food system in local policy, planning and actions, using different entry points such as food retail environment, food waste management, and public food procurement, among many other topics. For the work on urban food system, FAO focus on different typologies of cities, but we are giving emphasis on small and intermediate cities, which are at the front line of the food system action. First of all, that's where the majority of consumers live, globally speaking. And second, it is the main entry point for market and for food production. Finally, small urban centers house important components of the food system, such as local extension services, offices, small businesses that sell agriculture and veterinary inputs, warehouses, local traders that link the farms to the regional and national wholesale markets, and a large proportion of food processing industries. With the limited capacity of resources and the need to deal with different market actors, such as traders, retailers, market associations and organizations, SMEs, large-scale businesses, many local authorities often lack financial and technical capacities to invest extra energy and precious resources for unlocking the potential of the local food markets. And we hear some example of these issues previously. And there is also not enough evidence about these issues. So investing in local markets goes beyond investing in food security and nutrition. It also means investing in public health, local economy, cultural identity, and the quality of public space. So just let me show you some achievement about this initiative on territorial market. I am sharing here the website where we can find all the information. So we prepared a methodology about how to get this data in a participatory manner. We also have a policy brief and short reports of data already collected in some kind of pilot countries. And we also publish videos that explain better the initiative. And we are putting this data on FAO geospatial platform, which is called Hand in Hand. Geospatial platform where all the information is publicly available for everyone. So this is the first result that we have in these countries with a set of data set available. So as you see, it's not a lot of markets that we are able to map because we do not have so many resources. But we try to be the most representative as possible and to get the right numbers of people in each market, and also to have different markets in each country to have a good overview of the situation in each country. So the kind of information that we are having is this map. And then we have data for each red point here on the map about each market, with also data that we are collecting with the survey that we are doing in them. And these are the foreseen activities. So we will add a second. We publish a second edition of the methodology, which add a consumer component. The first part was more about the traders and the producers, but we think it's also important to know what is happening for consumers in these markets. So we will continue to publish the reports about the data collection and the different countries. And also we are focusing on related topics related with the territorial markets. One topic is a gender issue and the women economic inclusion, because we realize that a lot of traders and food producers selling in this market are women. We also highlight the importance of this market for nutrition, because we know that this is a place where we can find more fresh food, but also very diverse food, and also at accessible prices for consumer. And finally, we will also look at territorial markets as a good place for accessing sustainable products and products coming from sustainable agriculture. So we see really these different entry points or related issues important also for territorial markets. And we will continue data collection in more countries with some additional funding. So just to go now to the concluding remarks, mainly based on our experience as a FAO on mapping and supporting territorial markets. First, as I said, there is this need to collect reliable information and data at market level for supporting the evidence-based decision making. This is very important to give visibility to this topic also for policymakers, because it's not a topic that is really visible at the moment. And the analysis of this data shows that territorial markets have the potential to improve the accessibility, availability, and affordability of diverse, locally produced, seasonal, and nutritious food. So this can contribute to household food security and to progress towards sustainable development goals, in particular SDG 2 about zero hunger. So reducing also the number of malnourished people, as well as building markets resilient towards shocks. And we saw this in particular during the COVID crisis, the importance of this market and how they were able to adapt to the new situation. Another fundamental point is the importance of engaging local and supranational governments, such as city governments or sub-regional governments, in the improvement of markets and in general of the food retail environment. Local governments can play a fundamental role in promoting system thinking and therefore connecting markets with other urban development sectors and agendas such as health and local economy. So the establishment of food government mechanism at city level is instrumental for engaging multiple actors at local level and connecting the food retail environment with other sectors. That is the reason why food government is at the center of the work on urban food systems. Moreover, we know that a lot of initiatives and experiences for improving food retail markets that are informative and inspiring exist everywhere, and they need to be shared. So this workshop was a very first, or maybe not the first one, but a very good opportunity to share all these experiences. And that is also why FAO recently launched a network of market experts at city level. The goal of this network is to increase the pool of knowledge between these non-state actors who are responsible and have the will to strengthen and support these markets. Finally, at global level, FAO is ready to strengthen partnership on this key topic under the umbrella of the Urban Food System Coalition, which is one of the coalition that is emerging after the UN Food System Summit. It's now currently involving 26 organizations as a driving force, and we hope that this coalition will also be able to tackle this issue about local territorial markets as the key point and a key entry point for transforming food systems. So I would like to finish on this, and thank you again for your attention. Stop sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Florence, for these closing remarks and words. We do think we can see it on the field, the work that you have been doing this past month in order to gather statistics and information is really important for market systems. Our work was a little bit like invisible before, and we didn't count upon reliable data in order to show the importance of let's say the whole market environment and distribute food, fresh food distribution environment in order to make policymakers realize how important is to have like a successful policies in order to develop this more like a sustainable network of different actors that can ensure availability of produce in the long term, in the long run for cities. So I want to thank everyone for assisting to this first webinar. I think that the results, and I have seen participation, that everyone was like really interested. Thomas, again, thank you. Florence Egal, Grace and Remy from UN Habitat, Cecilia, Christy Daniel from Healthbridge, and Richard McCarthy from the World Farmers Alliance. Thank you so much for co-organizing this event. Altogether, I think that this is just the first webinar of a couple of them that we have to do in order to develop like these new strategies. I thank you again to everyone. Where this webinar was recorded, so we're going to send it afterwards. We have the email of all the participants, and we're going to send all the recording and also the presentations to everyone. Don't hesitate to contact us. I think that also you have like our different emails. We're going to share it now in the chat box. So if you have any further question, comments, or you want to like just connect to develop a specific topic or a specific program, don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Thomas. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Thomas and Tim, for this wonderful exchange.
Thank you, everyone. Learned so much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eugene. I'm seeing you for the first time. And then Thomas, thank you. I will send you a mail. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdul.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yes, I'm really happy to see your face. Finally.
Okay, so let me remove my glass so that I can see my. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.